Good evening and welcome. I am Paul Bellenboyer, proud to be a Jersey City resident, proud to be a co-founder of Safe Streets Jersey City, and proud to be here tonight. On behalf of Bike JC, our partner, and Safe Streets JC, welcome to the Streets Forum. Safe Streets JC is focused on educating about traffic safety for all users of our roads. Bike JC promotes bike ridership and safety. Together, we know that traffic safety is one of those things which really affect the quality of life in Jersey City. And it's literally a life and death issue. We thank you for coming tonight and demonstrating again how important this issue is to you and to our city. We also want to thank and recognize our candidates for mayor, Stephen Fulop and Bill Matsakoutas, who have come to let you know where they stand on these critical issues. The rest of tonight's meeting will be led by our co-moderators, the president of Bike JC, Patrick Conlon, and the president of Safe Streets JC, Kara Roboski.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Just wanted to introduce myself and give you the overview of the format of the meeting tonight. I'm Kara Roboski, the president of Safe Streets JC, as Paul mentioned, here with Patrick Conlon, president of Bike JC. And several people in our audience also helped from our organization, so thank you very much. We're happy that you're all here too. Tonight's meeting is only on the subject of traffic and transportation safety and access. So all questions were sourced from our membership and via the public from social media outlets. Questions will be asked by the moderators, Patrick and myself, and by a few selected members of the public. Most questions will have an introduction so that we are all clear on the issues being discussed. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Patrick Conlon.
Thanks, Kara. Thank you. So just a couple quick ground rules. We as moderators are going to chair this meeting, and we may ask some follow-up questions if we think it's needed on certain subjects. Each answer has a time limit, and we have a timekeeper here to help the candidates stick to the time, and so we can cover as much ground as possible. The format is designed so that we can all understand the issues, and the candidates can fairly state their positions on those issues. So we all agree with those ground rules? Everybody's good with that? Okay, great. Kara, you want to start with the first question?
Great. All right, we'll jump right into this. So we can all agree that one traffic death is too many. Yet for too long, we've tolerated road deaths and injuries by dismissing them as accidents. These are violent crashes, not accidents, as they are largely preventable. And accidents are not preventable, but these are. That's why they're not accidents. They're largely preventable via traffic engineering solutions, improved enforcement, and education. Reducing crash rates is not only the right thing to do for public health and the environment, but it would also reduce our individual vehicle insurance rates and costs to the city, such as police and EMS services that are currently put towards crashes. As we can see from this slide, something we'll be talking about tonight is Complete Streets. Complete Streets is a transportation policy and design approach that considers all users of the roads. Complete Streets are planned, designed, operated, and maintained for safe, convenient, and comfortable travel for everyone. Complete Streets are safer streets for pedestrians, bicyclists, and for motorists. They are also more commercially and environmentally friendly, more walkable, bikeable, beautiful, and livable. Here you will see a street before and after Complete Streets were implemented. It's a street that looks really similar to Bergen Avenue, right outside the front doors here. And as you can see, this is one way something like that, a street like that could be improved with some Complete Streets techniques. You'll see they've added bike lanes, reverse angle parking. There's some different uses and access. There's easier turning for vehicles. All those things are really great. And there's lots of ways to do these. There's no one size fits all for every street, but they really make a big impact. In 2011, the council voted to implement a complete streets policy for Jersey City. However, over the past 6 years, there's been very little street design and maintenance using complete streets methods in our city. This has led to many problems like poorly implemented speed humps, bike lanes which don't connect, work that has to be redone, and most of all, too many lost opportunities to improve safety and quality of life. Patrick?
We see the problems with the city's current approach in the numbers. So if you look at this slide, Jersey City Open Data Portal shows that in 2016 there were 585 pedestrians struck by vehicles, a 3% increase over 2015, and a 12% increase over 2014's number. The problem is chronic in every part of the city. You can see it's spread out everywhere. So we know it's a citywide issue. So last year, Jersey City had 80 shooting incidents, and we understandably treat shooting incidents as a serious matter of public safety and health. But with more than 7 times as many people hit by vehicles, what will it take for the city to also treat road crashes as a serious citywide public health and safety issue? There has been a consistent year-to-year increase in pedestrians struck by cars. Traffic violence, which is largely preventable via design improvements, enforcement, and education, has gotten little attention from city government over many years, including the past 4. This is what we're here to discuss with our 2 mayoral candidates. Okay, well, we can see the slides better now. That's okay. Yeah, it's okay for me. We're gonna give you guys 3 minutes each to respond to this one. We'll start with Mr. Matskoudas. So the question is, what will you do, if elected, to make this public health crisis a top priority for improvement for your administration? And what will you do to implement complete streets that we talked about in every part of the city, and try to be as specific as you can? Thank you. Is that working?
Hello. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you to both Safe Streets JC and Bike JC for putting together this forum. You know, when I first heard about it, I said it's kind of like very discrete issues to have a mayoral forum on. You know, a lot of these issues are handled by experts, but I think it goes along with what you guys have been doing, which is getting the awareness out there. And Kara talked about the 3 things that we need to do. It's engineering enhancements, enforcement, and awareness. I've told Kara a few different times that your efforts have changed my behavior personally. I know that I have become a better driver because when you see, and when you hear from a mother whose child was killed by a car, you recognize that it's avoidable. And that's the first thing we have to understand, is that these things are avoidable. And that's why Kara correctly says that these are not accidents, right? They're crashes, and you got to change the way you do things. You know, one of the things I saw at these meetings indicated that if you're driving 20 miles per hour and you hit a pedestrian, you have a 90% chance of living. But if you're going 40 miles per hour, which you can hit quickly, you have a 10% chance of living. So awareness is crucial. I don't know how much we're going to get into the details of traffic engineering, but there are some things that can be done, and complete streets, I'm glad to hear about it in the mainstream. I know when I was working for the city, some of my friends in the planning department used to talk about it a lot, and the city council passed it, but not much has been done. We can learn a lot from right across the river, from cities like San Francisco and Seattle. We need to implement all the elements of complete streets, and as many streets as possible. Get the community to tell us where to go. I suspect we'll talk about Grand Street tonight is one example. People want to do it on Bergen Avenue, where we bring about other modalities of transportation, namely bikes, protected bike lanes as well. We can do simple things like curb bump outs. I don't know if we'll get to talk about it more later, where you'll have a much better chance of people reducing their speed by making them basically reducing the laneage as you get to a turn, so that they're not, if you have a smaller turning radius, you'll be going slower. I heard about Vision Zero, this concept that was developed in Sweden after I left City Hall. 8 years and 9 months in City Hall as a city attorney, I never really heard of it, and I ended up hearing about it actually walking around in Europe, and it's been done it's being done in New York City. I think people think about Mayor de Blasio and they think about this big progressive, but this is a common sense issue that really has nothing to do with, not much to do, I don't think, with ideology, and I think we need to implement Vision Zero here.
Great. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you. So, Mayor Fulop, as a councilman, you voted in 2011 to adopt the referenced Complete Streets policy for the city. Yet, as mayor, you have yet to ensure that this plan is implemented on our streets as a matter of practice. So what will you do if reelected to make this public health crisis a top priority for improvement for your administration? Please be specific. What will you do to implement complete streets in every part of the city?
Okay, so first let me just say a couple of things. Let me start by saying thank you to Safe Streets JC and Bike JC for hosting this. More importantly, I want to say happy birthday to Bill Matsakudis here today. I am certain that there's no place more that he'd want to be than arguing and talking about bikes on his birthday. But nevertheless, I want to say thank you for putting this together. So let's go back to 6 years ago and talk about where we came from to where we are and then where I hope to go in the next 4 years. Because I think that it gives a better understanding of where we've been successful and where we still need work to do. And that's the reason why I'm running for mayor, because initially I said I believe that this job would take 8 years. I said that I would do 2 terms and only 2 terms, and I'm asking for the opportunity to continue that progress. When I came into office in 2013, there was no bike share program. There was one bike lane, practice bike lane in front of City Hall that connected Columbus to Grand Street. There was no bike master plan in work. There was no speed humps. They weren't allowed in the city. Stop signs were actually pushed back upon because the comments were we wanted to see people move quicker through the city. And we've started to correct a lot of those things, although we haven't done enough yet. And I think the next phase over the next 4 years is to do things like Vision Zero, which we will commit to, because today we spend enough money. We do almost everything that is necessary in order to enact that program. So it makes sense that we should set that target. The other thing that I'd like to do over the next 4 years, because I think we are at that point, is also restructuring how we approach city government in order to have a Department of Transportation. So right now, all of those different departments are in different parts of city government. And I think that we've done enough to aggregate that. Many of you know that over the last couple years that we've eliminated departments, we've saved money on some of that. And I think the next common sense approach is to look towards efficiencies towards enacting a Vision Zero. And that means creating a department or division of transportation where enforcement is there, where the RFPs for a master bike plan are actually run out of, where the community liaisons are out of. We've done a lot so far working with this specific group, and I hope to talk about that tonight, but I'll be the first to say that we still have a lot more work to do.
Great, thank you both. Thank you very much. So for the next question, I would like to introduce Sarah Ibrahim, who is a West Side resident who bikes and walks everywhere as a commuter, and would like to ask the next question. Sarah? Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hey, how's it going? So, planning in Jersey City has focused on buildings, over-focused on buildings, and under-focused on transportation. Transportation in ferries, the path, light rail, bus lines, bike lanes, determines who can live where and what kind of businesses are possible. Most notably in the past 10 years, Jersey City has seen a great increase in population and density with very little increase in transportation capacity and connectivity. And we're continuing down this path of rapid population growth. If you plan cities for cars and traffic, you get cars and traffic. If you plan for people and places, you get people and places. For too long, Jersey City has been planned for cars and traffic rather than for people and their access to places. Many people drive locally, creating traffic and parking congestion because there are not enough safe and convenient walking, biking, or public transit options. People in Jersey City largely drive because they feel that they have to. Also, nearly 39% of Jersey City households, like mine, do not own a car, making us the fourth most car-free city in the United States. Transportation gives us access to good jobs, schools, and grocery stores. Car ownership can easily consume 1/5 of a family's budget, and lower-income families are far less likely to own a car. Therefore, economic mobility is closely tied to access to affordable and reliable public transit. Given that, we should uphold cycling, walking, and public transportation as a safer, faster, cheaper, and greener alternative to driving by making these transit options safer, more accessible, and more appealing. So you each have 3 minutes to answer the two-part question. Mr. Fulop first, and then Mr. Matsukuta second. How will you ensure that all development projects promote better accessibility between neighborhoods and to transit centers? And secondly, how will you improve reliability and efficiency of our transportation options with more robust public transportation that reaches every corner of the city?
All right, so thank you so much for that question. Let me start by saying, thank you. Let me start by saying where I think that we are today. We're actually out in the next couple weeks. We've worked with actually Bike JC and Safe Streets JC on a RFP in order to work through the bike master plan for the entire city. And that's on the goal line going out in the next couple weeks. So I think for the first time in the city's history, there's going to be a framework that we are going to follow with regards to linking different areas together. That's first. Secondly, as it relates to the city's master plan overall, which we started for the first time in 20 some odd years, and it has a transportation component. So looking at our bus routes and revisiting where density is and really how that works overall. Now, what have we done in the last couple of years? I mean, because clearly mass transportation is important. We've worked to expand bus routes where possible. For example, the 119 line in the Heights, now extending on weekends and overnight. We were crucial on that. We fought the governor where appropriate when he wanted to curtail path service. We were at the forefront of that. We advocated for additional ferry service, and additional ferry service actually started this week, our 4th ferry service from downtown. So that is another option on that front. So I will be the first to tell you that we have a lot more things to do, as I said earlier, but we have also made a great emphasis on that. The final point is that on the path system, because it's something we think about all the time, and we've worked with the Port Authority. We had a meeting this week with them about the increased expanded trains and the changing of the signals, which we think and they think will expand by 30% the capacity on that. So we always are thinking about that front. I know that in 2018 and 2019, with a new governor in office, and we've had this conversation already with the governor on the Democratic side about a better relationship and some easy wins for his administration, and I think for the region, particularly around mass transit, because we've been neglected for a long time. So I tend to think that we've laid a really strong framework and foundation for a lot of the things that we want to do over the next couple of years. And we've had some real significant wins as well. But I think that, in the next 4 years, with a new administration, a new partner, and new plans in place, I think there's a lot that we can do.
So we're talking about how to enhance moving through Jersey City, both on foot and on bike, and then the second part of it is about public transportation. I think that we need to have protected bike lanes in Jersey City and a connected corridor to be able to take you from the east side to the west side and from Bayonne to Union City. I think that the first step of that is the study and looking at bringing a protected bike lane to Grand Street, which will hopefully take you from the Hudson River to Ocean Avenue, the extent of Grand Street. One of the things that I'm passionate about is, and it's on my campaign website, is a concept of connecting our Hackensack and Hudson River waterfronts with pedestrian walkways that will take you basically along a greenway to get from the Hudson to the Hackensack. One utilizing the 6th Street embankment through the Bergen Arches, and the other tracing the path of the former Morris Canal. Those are things that would take some time and money, but if you identify that you want to do it, you're going to do it, you set the plan to do it, you lay out a budget and a period of time to get it done, you could get it done. That's how things like the High Line got done in New York. When it comes to mass transportation, you know, advocacy, as the mayor points out, is seemingly the name of the game, because most of the mass transportation is being handled by either the state of New Jersey and the Department of Transportation there, or the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. So yes, the signal change, God willing, is going to increase capacity, and I'd love to hear when they said that that will take place. We've been hearing about it since I was in City Hall over 4 years ago, and I'm sure it will happen eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later. I think we need more ferries. I don't think we should have a monopoly of one company that charges way too much. It's, you know, multiple times more to take a ferry across the Hudson than it is to get on the PATH train. But last but not least, I think what we really need to look at, the one thing that we could do as a city, as opposed to, and I agree with the mayor, I think that hopefully the person we both support for governor will win. I think it will be very good for public transportation in general, and especially for Jersey City. But I think the one thing that we can actually handle within the city is a bus rapid transit system. Buses have diminished for many years. I know I've lived in Jersey City without a car, both as a youngster and later on, and I lived in Greenville and have to come to Journal Square to go to New York, and it was, you know, tough. You know, you take the bus and on West Side Avenue to get over to Journal Square is a half an hour. Bus rapid transit, been utilized in many cities, especially in South America. It's not rocket science. It's like painting a line on a street and saying this is only for the buses. And you don't have stops all the time where you pay. You have designated areas. It's like combining a subway with a bus, except you don't have the billions of dollars of infrastructure for a bus. And even if you had a few lines, you'd be helping people who currently live on the west side of Jersey City or in the northern part of Jersey City and have a really hard time getting to the PATH station. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce the next person to ask a question, which is my friend Nathan Oliver, right here. Ollie's a Heights resident, my neighbor. He lives close to me. He's a big supporter of Bike JC, and he rides a beautiful cargo bike around the city. You might run into him at Home Depot getting some plywood or something. Take it away.
I love biking. It's my favorite way to get around the city. It's a great way to commute. It's a great way to get around town and run errands. But some people think I might be a little bit crazy because I continue to bike after being hit by careless drivers 3 times. This is a picture of me after my most recent run-in. Most recently in Jersey City on Baldwin Avenue after a driver swerved into me on my way home from the train station. So I want to ask the audience, who currently rides a bike on our streets on a regular basis? Raise your hands. Put them up. Who in this room would consider riding a bike more for more short trips and commuting if they felt safer doing so? Studies show that 53% of people won't ride a bicycle because they worry about being hit by a driver. And 47% say they would be more likely to ride a bicycle if motor vehicles and bicycles were physically separated. Think about all the near-empty cars that are on our streets instead of bicycles for single-person trips. Think about all the traffic congestion and environmental impact that those cars are contributing to. The Federal Highway Administration says that 33% of all driving trips are 2 miles or less, a very bikeable distance. Riding a bicycle is not feasible for everyone. I'm not suggesting that everyone has to ride a bike, but more of these short trips on bikes is a very effective way of reducing congestion. Both candidates have come out and identified themselves as bike riders. Mayor Fulop's 2 current campaign commercials feature bicycling. And while bike lanes and City Bike are important steps, the commercials don't show the mayor riding on safe street infrastructure, which we're told is forthcoming. And this bike lane only exists inside a park. So they don't these pictures don't show the reality of aggressive, impatient, distracted drivers who do not share the road with cyclists as they're required by law. The barriers in the background of this photo imply that this is like a closed set for this commercial. The people of Jersey City need and deserve safer bicycling facilities to be the reality on streets citywide. I have a question on this topic for each candidate. You'll have 2 minutes to answer, and Mr. Matsakoutis will answer first. What will you do to improve safety and access for bicycle riders throughout the entire city? How will you create better and safer bike network so that key routes like West Side Ave, Summit Ave, and Montgomery Avenue are not only safe for cyclists, but actually offer a desirable alternative to using a car?
So I'll confess that since I've been running for mayor, especially the last few months, I haven't been riding my bike as much, and because you're going to a lot of different things. And so today, since it was such a beautiful day, and since, as the mayor pointed out, it's my birthday, I said, well, let me ride my bike around a little bit and get the feel, so it'll be fresh within me tonight. And I rode here tonight as well, and. Yeah, it can, even it wasn't riding around, it was one day, and, it gets a little tight. I was coming down Bergen Avenue. I pointed out a couple of things already. One is protected bike lanes, and I think this takes a couple of things. It takes making it a priority, and it takes leadership, and it really takes also some expertise, which I don't pretend to have. So some of this goes to like the fundamentals of how you run government, right? And it's about hiring the best and the brightest and not the most politically connected. We really need to have these decisions made by people who care, people who are trained and studied in planning and in transportation, with feedback from the community. So protected bike lanes, other things like we talked about road diets where you're limiting on certain roads like Grand Street, instead of being 4 lanes, bringing it down to 2. I think it turns into 2 after Grove Street. We shouldn't have highways like Grand Street is going through our neighborhoods. So I think we can do that through engineering changes. Even there's other things like, changing the texture of the roadways that will help slow them down. Speed bumps, the mayor pointed out, can help, but there are even more progressive, if you will, ways to do it. And am I out of time? Okay. And the last thing I would talk about, I mentioned before.